80% of the population have some type of digestive disorder. It's the main reason people go to a doctor. So
whether they realise it or not.
Whether
they might go in there
it,
thinking that they've got another issue.
They'll be going in there for headaches, but really they're constipated.
Yeah.
Or they'll be going in there because they haven't had their period for 6 months, but they're constipated. Constipation and diarrhea are actually the same thing because they're really both constipation. Even though people say, oh no, I've been pooing on the toilet like 12 times a day, your body's trying to get rid of a pathogen, but you still have matter that's sitting in there, like hardened fecal matter. We're hydrating the body. At its real basic level, we're hydrating the body at a cellular level, and then what's happening is then that is reducing the inflammation in the body. So we're offering the body the opportunity to find homeostasis, balance, to be well. Because I actually believe our body knows how to be well. Like you're sitting there now and your body knows how to adjust your temperature, internal temperature, so you don't get too hot or cold. It's knowing how many heartbeats that your heart has to do. It's regulating your pulse, it's regulating your acid and alkalinity. And that would be a good thing for us to talk about down the track.
And something to add in here, it does all of these things regardless of how much neglect and abuse we do to it, which 100%. Is incredible.
Until we end up being dead or 40 with a list of symptoms.
Yep.
Now this is where we come in. So I talk about Bottoms Up Colonics is we deal with lifestyle diseases. Bottoms Up Colonics is colon hydrotherapy, and it's a technique that I have developed and now called the Rogers technique, because if you put in the computer colon hydrotherapy, you're going to come with a plethora of stuff, from open to gravity to enema to Kalima board to colonoscopy.
Just so much jargon right there that nobody understands.
Exactly. So let's be clear in our conversation today. I'm talking about Rogers colon hydrotherapy, which people can find on our website and understand more about that. And they can then also understand more about all the other techniques that I just spoke about as well, all the other definitions. The symptoms that we can help address are our basic things like bloating. So our digestive systems, if you like. So our bloating, our irritable bowel syndrome, our leaky gut, gas, too much farting, too much burping, constipation, of course, diarrhea. Then the other things that can deal with is all the skin issues. So you might have eczema, cystic acne, you might have psoriasis, you might have just rashes, uncomfortable skin, dry skin. So again, we actually affect through what we're doing with the hydration, we're actually supporting our body to remove all that. And hormones, so if we think about the hormones, a lot of people are very stressed. Our stress hormones are just way out, right? So our cortisol is really high, which means, and big word, means adrenal fatigue, which means how you experience it is lethargy. So people talking about chronic fatigue and just don't have the energy, you just don't have that zest, that battery power to get you up and go the next day. So the hormones, we're helping adjust the hormones. And for women reproductively, we've got a lot of young women who maybe have been on the pill since they were 12 or 13, because that's what doctors tell us to do. The problem is that young women don't finish developing their breast tissue till they're 24. So our hormones are all over the place while we're actually developing. We're still developing. So when we come in and put the pill in, or a contraception, whether it's what you put in your arm or in your marina, it's affecting, it's stopping your hormones working, it's overriding your natural hormone process. So now we've got girls that maybe are coming off that when they're 25, 30, and I've had young women wanting to come off to fall pregnant. And it might take 12 months for us to get their cycle back, to really just get it back to normal. So, it has all of those effects. And you wouldn't think, right? You wouldn't think that having a colonic and cleaning the poop out of your bottom is going to allow, and it's just not your bottom, but your cells. We have all of these effects. And then the other one is the mental health, which is big for me. And the reason I got into colonics, because it was my own mental health when I had it done. It was just like this amazing, I don't know if people might understand this feeling, but Particularly then, I was highly stressed. They were about to put me on hormone. I was 38. They were about to put me on hormone replacement therapy, antidepressants, and anxiety. So it come from 20 years of lots of stress, I suppose. But they already, I say they, the doctor, that was the answer, you know.
Yep.
And seen as normal actually for someone that was going through what I was going through. And
it's still seen as normal in a lot of circles. It's still prevailing traditional approach is we look at the effect, depression, anxiety, stress. Okay, what can we medicate? Like
how do we medicate?
How can we make it work? How can we make it work now? Like nobody wants to go and do a month or 2 months, 3 months, a year of healing.
Or a lifestyle.
Or change their whole lifestyle.
It's just a lifestyle thing, right? For me, it's a forever thing, which is quite daunting when you're young, right? But for me then, because, so when and I still know this feeling, like my head will get very tight, it will get very stressed. And I feel like I don't have space in my head. And in fact, the first time I'll tell you another story with that. You can tell me to keep on track because I do meander, right?
I love the lived experience.
But when I had this first colonic and why I felt like there was something in it and took me on this journey, was I was lying on there. It was actually horrific physically. It was painful.
Like it's easy to sit here now, 20 years later or whatever it is.
Yeah,
and just rattle it off like an old bedtime story, but yeah.
No, at that moment, it was very stressful and the way that she did colonics, it was like old-fashioned, traditional, painful. And I didn't poop. I actually didn't. It was the first time I realised that I didn't poop, because that's another thing. If we grow up only pooping once a week, once a fortnight, once a month, that's our normal. So until someone comes and tells us, and we might be starting to get other symptoms, but we're not relating it to that because we're not seeing that that's the problem.
Yeah.
It's amazing what you said before. It's amazing what your body can tolerate, right? So when I had this session at the end of it, I remember going, holy hell, I have spent years in psychotherapy and I've just been here for this hour and I've just let that shit literally down the drain. I had space in my brain. I had space. And it was in fact that feeling, and it was maybe a little euphoric. It was just like...
Well, with that relief would be euphoric for the first time ever, finally
you just
releasing.
got space. It's like you can breathe, like, and when you don't realise that how tight your body is, like, so to have that feeling is just like, wow. And this lady, and the actual treatment was full on, but because of my interest in cellular memory then, so that's where it took, because I was a social worker then, right, doing counselling and stuff. So
little side note, everybody, there's like a whole bunch of like lived experience, a gold mine of like, she's just got all these little dots connecting for us. That's why. And this is the story I wanted to share. I didn't even know that I was going to be sitting down with the founder of Bottoms Up Colonics. I just booked myself a colon hydrotherapy session finally, because I was told, like, after all the drugs that I'd done in my youth and all the things I'd been exposed to, it's something I should look at. And I just happened to sit down in that chair that day, and the founder's in there filling in shifts. So it's meant to be. And
I was only there for a month.
Yep.
And I'm not back in there
That
now.
window was when I booked my sessions.
And I got to see you for the whole time.
I got to sit down and just mine your life experience and wisdom. It was awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You don't think about it at the time. But yeah, it was meant to be. And it is, like, I'm a big believer in universal timing. Yeah. And I love it. So that's also why I've agreed to sit with you as well. It's like, no, this is cool. And for this, for your audience, because your audience is what I have such hope in, because it's at the age group now that have the ability just to change up everything, man. Like, the power that's in your hands right now, it's amazing. But to be able to live that power out, we have to be able to be healthy. Because one thing I know is that if you aren't healthy, you're not happy. And we need happy vibes on the planet. We don't need doom and gloom vibes. And we don't need all the shit that you hear. It's like we need to know that the world is beautiful. Mother Earth, like our body, is extremely resilient. So we don't have to give much to get a lot back. So if we are all one cell of hers, then we can, join together and make a really big difference. So I feel excited about that. So yeah, so the cellular memory and everything was what really intrigued me, and my feeling in my head was just like, wow, I've got such space there. Like I feel light, I feel empty. Like what is that about? How did that happen? Surely just poop can't do that, right? That's a connection I'm coming back to, because when we're looking at colonics and we're looking at mental health, because I think that's something that's really big. We talk about that so much, not really understanding it. Yeah? And we have to get out of the head to understand how to heal mental health.
For sure.
Yeah? So if we go back to our second brain, we know the science behind it all, right? Because we know that inside your gut, so when we talk about a gut, we have a long poo tube, starts at the mouth, finishes at the bottom. So that's your gut. So when they talk about your gut wall, it's that whole long tube, yeah? Okay. Inside of that gut wall, there's a layer, an epithelial layer, and it houses and makes serotonin. We also know that is affected by the type of bacteria or bacteria diversity, good bacteria or bad bacteria, that you have in your gut. We can have good bacteria for happy bugs and bad bacteria for unhappy bugs. So it's about that gut diversity. So if we think about that, if we can get mental health out of the brain, and looking at the drugs and hormones that go on there and actually think about that all happens from the gut. So now we can actually, okay, well, let me heal my inflammation and let me actually start to understand and hydrate, because I actually believe people are chronically dehydrated. And I spoke about, and you guys can look him up, Dr. Batman McGalgie, but don't ask me how to spell that, but you can put a reference underneath.
I'll try.
But his book is called Your Body's Many Cries for Water. He only passed away in 2002. He is the first person that started to talk about that we're not sick, we're thirsty. So he talks about chronic dehydration. So you have to understand that when we want to be hydrated, we have to get the water inside the cell, not just outside the cell. Because it's that as we age, the hydration inside the cell becomes less, our cells shrink, and now we become sick.
With enough therapy and hydration and looking after ourselves, can we prevent that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And you can slow down even like the aging process. And you can certainly, a lot of those lifestyle diseases that I talked to you about, that bottoms up, we support and remove, like even our autoimmune, that entourage effect, it's coming because we're using the water to hydrate. And just at our clinics, we don't just use chlorine water that you get out of the tap. Like we actually have triple filters to have the water through, and then we actually have a special thing that structures the water. So by the time you get that coming in, it's in a space that's really absorbable into your body. It's like, imagine you've got a hexagon and a square. So the square is trying to get into that hexagon and can't go. So now what we're doing is we've got a hexagon and another hexagon, so they can come inside of each other, so we can get that infiltration in, right? So that's really what we're doing when we do that. So yeah, the entourage effect, the mental health is close to my heart because of my own experiences and because of my background in social work. And when I've worked with so many kids with trauma, and I look at how I worked with those kids way back then and what we thought was good science, right? Like how you should work with these kids with no understanding of nutrition, none. So because I thought our kids, because a lot of our kids come off the streets or out of institutions, they were not allowed to have certain things. Like they couldn't have a heap of milk or bread. So I would make sure they could have a lot of milk and bread because I didn't want them to feel that they lacked anything. But now what I know, I was giving them poison. Because I didn't understand the effect of...
Because what does milk and bread feed in the gut?
So the problem with milk and bread is that we can't break it down, so it causes inflammation.
So anything we can't break down causes inflammation? Is that like, can I say that?
Yeah, you can. Yeah. Because that's a really good point. Because the whole idea of our body and the digestive system is that we have to turn that bite of apple into a heart cell or to a liver cell. That's its idea. It's not just to stop you from being hungry.
Yep.
It actually has to turn into something. So really, you're an alchemist. Your body's an alchemist. It's turning that bite of apple into a heart cell. So its whole job is to break down, reabsorb into that beautiful cell, healthy cell. Now, if we eat things that we can't break down, and in our world we've got many today, because if you go to a supermarket and you read on food, they've got a whole lot of numbers. We can't break down numbers. We've only got enzymes to break down proteins, fats and carbohydrates. Now, the other thing that's hard for us to break down when I'm talking about milk and bread is casein. It's the protein in the milk. So it's not so much the lactose, that's another issue, but the protein, the casein, very hard to break down because our digestive juices aren't strong. And then our gluten, well, they're saying it's actually the glyphosate, what was sprayed onto the wheat.
Oh, definitely going to add to it, isn't it?
It is going to add to it. So again, we can't break those down. So what happens is that ends up being, gluten and casein end up being in our small intestine, not being able to break down. Now our body puts another layer of what's called biofilm over that because it wants to protect you from it.
Is that what makes up the plaque that you were talking about as well? Okay, I'm jumping ahead, aren't I?
No, but that's exactly what I was going to next. So then what happens is that after a while then that biofilm becomes like a hardened plaque or a thick biofilm that now becomes pathogenic, so it can store pathogens underneath it, cause the inflammation. Because also cause leaky gut, you know, it can cause that whole issue of... because they're bigger molecules, so they come between the villi. So I'm probably confusing everyone, I'm sorry. So in the small intestine, to finish that though, in your small intestine you've got these little things called villi, and they're like little finger-like projections. The idea is that so what you've broken down into that molecular level, it's going to absorb through that one little villi and take it back through the epithelial layers into your blood system and back through your body, right? What happens, and those villi should be all stood up like little soldiers like that, all straight and close together. What happens when we've got too much pathogenic stuff like the casein or the gluten or antibiotics or contraceptive pill or 621 preservative, whatever, it's going to be too big. It will come in between the villi. And then what happens, it tries to be absorbed through, and now the body goes, no, wait there, warning, I don't know this, it's too big, I don't know this shape. We have to set out an inflammatory response because it's trying to keep you healthy, it's trying to support you. But now what happens, but it's a wrong signal.
So it's like
so then it
when you get
cycling.
a splinter or something and you swell up and it's your body trying to push it back out. That's
exactly right. So that's the inflammation response. So it's trying to, in doing that, it's trying to push this out. But what happens is it can't, so now it's going to recycle. So now we've got a recycling thing, so now we've got an autoimmune disease. And that can be diabetes, that can be arthritis, that can be gout. Those things that we used to think old people just got as well. But what we're now seeing is we've got young people that are having diabetes too. Well,
it would have taken longer to create the problem before we had access to so much poison at once.
And we're just not as genetically strong as we were. So my grandparents were really sturdy. They hadn't been in a supermarket in their life. You know what I mean? So their health is really good. But by the time you get to my great-grandchildren, we just don't have that same resilience. I can even see with my own granddaughter that generational change is becoming weaker and weaker and weaker.
As we acknowledge that, we've created this weaker and weaker and weaker. We need to do something about it. So that's why we have conversations like this, and we start to do all of these different things to establish balance and start to bring us back to our full power and potential.
And understand you have the power to do that. So there's a saying about the yellow canary in the cage. So you know, in underground mines they keep a canary down there. So if it falls off its perch, all the workers run out, right? Because there's no oxygen left. So in my world, the canary's fallen off the cage or off the perch. And why I say that is because we have IVF clinics going out of control, growing, opening.
Yep.
We have the highest rate of men's lowest testosterone rate ever in history. So 30-year-old men,
Yep.
we've never seen such a low testosterone rate. So we can't breed.
Infertility through the roof.
Infertility is through this. Now the other thing that's going on, and I just heard this a couple of months ago, looking at clinics, but there's a new Medihub opening in Brisbane. But one of the biggest renters that's going to be in there, taking up nearly a whole floor space, is a paediatrician.
Yep.
So they're for doctors for under 5-year-olds. So
we've got
there's a 2-year
skyrocketing of children with problems.
Yep.
We've
2-year wait list to get into a paediatrician.
Yep.
So that tells us where our kids' health are at once we're born.
Yep.
So to get them born is very minimal.
Yep.
Because we've got the highest rate of miscarriage we've ever had as well.
Yep.
Lowest rate of testosterone for men. So just to have a baby is like something profound right now.
Yep.
And then if we do have that baby, to have a healthy baby. So this is where I could get on my little perch a little bit, because I feel very passionate about that. And I know I talk to young women and men, because it's both sides. We have to start again to understand and prepare our bodies for a baby and to give birth. So of course babies happen. But if we're looking at having babies in the future, I think that the best thing any young woman and young man can do is to prepare that body at least for a month to hold this next incarnation of yourself. Like, it's such a beautiful thing to be able to hold a baby within your body. So as a woman, there's no better experience that you'll have, personally, I think, even if you get morning sickness or whatever. I just think to be able to create another human being, it's like, what a gift. But we're seeing, and even with the amount of Caesars that are being had, like, this whole process is where young people can start to go, you know what, let's just, if we want to have a family, if we want to have a baby, let's just get ready for this. When I had my first baby, I was only 16, so I had no planning or preparation at all. But I'd also never really been into a supermarket. I was raised by a, I don't know if you can have these, but a hippie Christian. So she was really hippie for a while, and then she turned fundamental Christian, which is somewhat scary. But in doing that, she was very aware about the food. So I did never go to a doctor. The first time I went to a doctor was when I had my baby.
Wow.
At 17. Yeah. Yeah.
So you were prepared in a way, because you must have been healthy. You must have been.
Well, I was.
Yeah.
Other than I didn't poop, but I was healthy. Yeah, I didn't. We went to herbalists and chiropractors. So I'd never had a medication, an antibiotic, vaccine, nothing at all in my life. Even the stuff that they try to give you at high school. But the preparation of understanding that you are a host for another living person, I think we have to start to have a little bit more reverence to that and hold that dearer to our heart.
Well, unfortunately, I'm hyper aware that we're pretty much doing the opposite. My generation and the next generation, they're out there partying, they're taking drugs that you wouldn't even believe are possible to exist. It's like synthesized chemical cocktails of doom. Like, if you think like bread and milk are gonna ruin your gut health, like, this stuff is like, they are dropping nuclear bombs literally into their bodies.
Battery acid.
Yeah, pretty much. Worse, you know, like everything. And every Friday night, sometimes it becomes a daily habit for a little while, a year or two.
So they got to clean up.
Yeah. Well, that was me. That's why I came, because I knew that my stuff was out of balance, because for 5-6 years, almost every day I took something.
So that would have wiped out your complete bacteria system, right? Yeah.
And like you explained to me, like with all that gut bacteria out of control, that's why I had the anger and why I had the even psychosis. Like, I was feeling a little bit crazy at times, because this, my brain down here, my real brain, what we call our second brain, it was out of control. So I was out of control.
Well, I call it the feeling brain.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that you would have been out of control. And your liver, because all of those drugs, all of those chemicals have to go somewhere, and that's when they go to the liver, because the liver has to store or try and work them out. So that's the liver's job. And the liver is well known to be, if we're reading the body in emotions and what we're listening to the body psychology, if you like, liver's well known for anger, you know, like, and the old sayings.
I've seen that pattern myself.
Yeah. And there used to be a saying, you know, like shit on the liver. And parents that would say, angry kids, and they'd say, have you done a poo today? Go to the toilet, you know, like go and do a poo. Like, so we've known that it's always, because your liver and your colon, they're just intrinsically linked. They're together. You can't separate them.
Yeah, both waste management, very much so. Central waste management.
Yeah, they are waste management. So liver is like a phase 1 and 2 detoxification, and the colon is phase 3 detoxification. Yeah.
So what takes place when we put something in that can't be detoxified?
Well, we store it. And that's when we store it in the liver. So I've worked with people that have come from those drug backgrounds that you talk about, and then have had to be mainly crack, and then they've been in mental health to get off that and to get themselves sorted. And then they come and do colonics. And in fact, the first person I actually worked with on that, after one of her sessions, she was very affected. She felt like, but it wasn't so much the crack, it was more the medication from the hospitals. She could just feel all over again. She just had to go and lie down. She could feel it all acting again. So any of those medications and any of those drugs, they're stored in our liver. They can be stored in our fat cells, or they can be stored in other parts. I mean, this is when we get inflammation. This is when we get disease, because it's like your body's got to try and put it somewhere and then work really hard. And that's the problem. When we're young, we're infallible. We think we can do anything, you know, like the body's going to just tolerate it. We don't even think about the repercussions of it, because we don't really care, do we? Like,
even my statement before, like, you can neglect and abuse it as much as you want. I'm still young enough to say that, and I haven't wrecked it yet, but in another 10 years, if I had stayed on that path,
100%,
I'll probably be in hospital, like, just constantly.
Well, you do, and with all of these varying symptoms that people don't join together, do you know what I mean? Like, I think that's the difference in our medicine at Bottoms Up. We are very much about joining the dots. So I look at someone's whole history and what's going on, and look at all the dots of where we actually want to come in and work with you as a holistic being, as a multidimensional being, as one system. Whereas if you go into mainstream still, although integrative and functional medicine is now giving us other options, it is now, it's still like you go to a lung specialist and then a colon specialist and a heart specialist. They don't see each other working, and how all of those systems work with each other. So
how do you train people for that? How do you train colon hydrotherapists? And like, do you need to make yourself available for like constant Q&As, because people are going to encounter things that they don't understand with your, like, compared to your lived experience, and just happening to have exposure to all the pieces that just come together so well? You must be sought after, like and I'm sitting here taking up your time. Like, I just feel like there'd be 100+ students on the phone all the time.
No, so, well, I've got, in Bottoms Up, we've got our little Facebook group page, and I've got people that'll work with me now probably Zani's been with me probably for 5 years, Selena's 7. So Emma, who works with me here in Narang, I've been spending, to be honest, I haven't looked at it like that so much, Kai, but I guess I do. I've had a client today call us, like, that I spoke to. Like, I'm constantly always speaking to people and answering those questions. That's a constant thing. But I'm not going to be around forever. So in the last couple of years, I've spent a lot of time with Emma, who works for me, and Shannon, who works for me, doing different things. Just getting out of my head the information. So the training platform, so we're putting a lot of that online. And my last training I did, we had it all videoed, and I want to video the next one as well, because every time I do a training I say something different, right? So, but we've just been in the last couple of years capturing a lot of what I got. So when you're a part of Bottoms Up, so you'll do the foundational training, which is 10 days intensive with me, and then you do case studies so that we're there with you while you do your 20 case studies and stuff. Yeah. And when you're doing the 10 days intensive, you're watching, receiving and giving a colonic on each of those days.
Wow.
Yeah, it's full on.
Yeah.
It is intensive. So in the morning we do the theory, so when everyone's fresh, but in the afternoon we're working on each other or observing. And then you do your 20 case studies. But then, so that's your like foundational program. Because what I tell people, you don't have to know everything that I know. What you have to do is, and this is like your viewers, you have to start to know the wisdom of your body. Because your body tells you, all I'm teaching my therapist is be a really good colon hydrotherapist. And what does that mean? That means be authentic. That means hold space in that room when you're sitting on the chair for your client, because they're going to go through a process, whatever that process is. Believe in the power of the body to heal. Understand the body's wisdom, not just understand it but know it. Yeah, it's different. And then also know deep within yourselves that it's the water that's the medicine. We don't really have to know. Ego wants us to know a lot of other stuff.
Sure, yeah.
But we don't really have to know a lot of other stuff. We want to make sure we can answer people's questions.
Really, a lot of the questions are objections and excuses, or what's a better word, like reasons that they haven't tried it yet. Like really, your role is to just eliminate all that doubt and uncertainty so that people can finally sit down and clear their shit. And
I think that the more... like the change, like when I started 20 years ago, I started in a mining town. So you can imagine what it was like in North Queensland doing colon hydrotherapy. And I opened up in a main street. Well, I was on the farm first with TP, so that was weird enough as it was. And then I went into the city centre in Mackay, and I was in the professional precinct, and our tagline there was get flushed. So I made it all very playful then. And 2 bottoms on the thing, a little black bottom, a little white bottom, and then get flushed. And everyone walked past and laughed, which was cool, which is what I wanted, right? But so the fact that it's lasted for 20 years, and now for me to see in the last few years, and really it has been the last 3 years, like people are understanding gut health. People are understanding cleansing. People are understanding, okay, there's something else going on here. And I think it's because people are getting so much sicker. We are, like, we see stuff in the clinics now like it wasn't around 10 years ago. Yeah. The layers of health issues that people have. Well, let's have some of those examples, because that is the stuff that people want to hear about and potentially are watching because they have, and they're so embarrassed that they've never told anyone. Wow, don't be embarrassed, because I can guarantee that 80% of the population have issues. Look, it can be the multi-issues that are coming in. I'm trying to think of a client to make it easy for myself, but they'll come in with constipation and or diarrhea. Along with that, they'll have bloating and gas marked as an issue. So they'll have those types of digestive issues. There's some people that will have what I call endometriosis. So that's when they might have no control of their bowel. So they stop going out. And this happens to little children as well as, but the whole spectrum to 90-year-olds, right? Yep. And that's what I've worked with, from 5-year-olds to 90-year-olds. So they will stop going out because they will soil themselves. Kids will go to school and get teased. Kids will eventually maybe grow out of it, or they'll just get sicker. So that's like leaking. So they'll come in with those issues. Then on top of that, they'll come in with the range of mental health. So they'll put down also that they're depressed, that they have no energy, and that they've got anxiety. I guess they're the 3 main ones that will come down with those types of disease. Those last 3, you said depressed, no energy, and what? Anxiety. Anxiety. That sounds like what you called before adrenal fatigue. Yeah. So it's pretty much, we've just like
labeling the effects of something deeper, which
Where-
is also an effect of something deeper.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if we keep what I call go upstream, go down deeper, if we keep going upstream, what's our course of action? Give the body the opportunity to find homeostasis, to be well through cleansing and hydration. And that, to be a very good colon hydrotherapist and offer that. So now we're dealing with that entourage of symptoms. Not being able to sleep is another real common one.
Yep.
People will have, they can't sleep. Or they don't rest well. Your listeners need to go and look at Veda Austin as well, and her work around water. So there was a man named Dr. Emoto. He's great, but Veda Austin has just kicked the ball out of the water with it. Like, it's just amazing what she's doing.
So after Emoto?
Yeah, yes.
Oh, so
she's
this is the
current-
next level.
Way next level.
Oh, I like that.
Way next level. So she talks about and shows us, and you can freeze your water at home, about the consciousness of water. So water is not an innate subject, and it is a metabolic substance. It actually helps us metabolize within our own body. We are a power source. We have to start to see our bodies as miniature Mother Earths. So I would talk about that you are one cell of Mother Earth, right? I'm one cell of Mother Earth. Just like in us we have 1 trillion cells,
Yeah.
where she has 1 trillion cells. We are one of her cells. Now if we microscope that down, then we also have 1 trillion bacterias.
Oh, wow.
Yeah?
Yep.
Now each of those bacterias will also have its own little personality. It has its own personality. It has its own gene even. That's a whole another subject another time.
Yep.
Because that's where medicine's going. That's actually exciting. That's where medicine's going. But if we want to, with all those symptoms, working out where do we step in with all the questions, answers, and people go, well, how do I fix up my, energy, or fall pregnant, or, not be depressed anymore, or whatever, like all of those things that we feel. I work upstream. And what I mean by that is, so they're all symptoms that we just spoke about,
Yep.
which will then have a cause of maybe adrenal fatigue, or leaky gut, or SIBO, any of those things. Crohn's disease, colitis, ulcerative colitis is another big one. Crohn's is harder, it's a structural issue, but if people have got ulcerative colitis, and that's where you'd have maybe a bleed, so we can't work with you when you're having a bleed, but there's product that we can support you with, and I can certainly get you ready so that we can do colonics. There's so much we can do around all of this, and food is really important, and it is about lifestyle. So if you're going to go out and party, at least give your body something to balance on the other side of that until you decide that you don't need to do it like that anymore. Do you know what I mean? So if we think about, okay, let's come back to, let's go right upstream. Okay, so what our body needs is to have it's got to have water. We're 99.9% cellular water. So if I give it good quality water and I trust the body's wisdom, it's going to work itself out. So it's sort of what I was saying to you before. No matter what symptom the person's got out there that's listening to this, as in a digestive complaint, a mental health complaint, a skin complaint, a hormonal complaint, autoimmune complaint, if you're recovering from cancer, if you're dealing with cancer, we've got so much cancer, diabetes, which is now seen as an autoimmune, the first thing that you have to do is get your body, and don't be embarrassed by it. Don't be embarrassed by your symptoms. Don't be embarrassed by feeling depressed or anxious or bloated or constipated or whatever. Like, the first step for you to get well is for you to take ownership and to take responsibility, and for you to reclaim your power and become your own doctor. So if I'm going to now be my doctor, because that's what would have normally happened in the old days.
Yep.
You be your own doctor, and then you go to your medicine person in the village, and they'll give you some herbs to take. Yeah. So I guess I'm seeing that Bottoms Up is we are that medicine woman, man in your community, and we'll give you some colonics, we'll give you some herbs to actually help deal with that, and we can send out or talk on the phone or whatever. But if we can get the body this is just what I believe with the colonics, and it's because over the years, it's the responses I see, because I have people with all these symptoms, and then after a month those symptoms aren't there. Yeah, like, so it's through that evidence-based practice, I guess, and the old fallacies of, you know, you take all my good bacteria, you perforate my bowel, you stretch my bowel, you make my bowel lazy. What else do people say? They're the main ones, and you get rid of good bacteria. It's just like, there's such an old argument that they have no basis for even continuing. So I'll answer them, but it's like, come on, like, go understand anatomy and physiology. And when you poo, every time you poo, 80% of that is dead cells and bacteria. We're not supposed to be just holding everything in there. We have to flow, you know, we have to flow like the seasons, like the rivers. So if we can get the water right, if we can get the cells in a healthy way with that energy, then they can chuck out the bad cells. They can chuck those bad cells out, so we don't have to get sick. It's interesting. I can give you an example. So I actually had cancer a couple of years ago, lymphoma. And it was all on my chest, and it had, I guess for want of better words, eaten a hole through my throat, my esophagus. So I couldn't swallow anything. I couldn't even swallow my own spit. I was drowning myself intracellularly just by trying to swallow spit. Anyway, long story short, they put a stent in because they wanted to do an esophageal bypass and a PEG. And I was like, no, not doing all of that. It felt like it was that next level invasion, right? So I had this stent put in, which was extremely painful, like this steel tube down my throat, all the way down to my stomach, which literally meant that I couldn't eat. So I didn't eat probably for 4 months. And I couldn't really drink a lot of water, teaspoon by teaspoon. So what I would do is I would go and have colonics, and I'd give myself enemas if I was too weak to get to the clinic, because there's sometimes I got pretty sick. Or I'd do enemas and put solution through the enemas. So I'd put the water in the bag, put some herbs in there, and let that go into my colon just to give me water, electrolytes, and any minerals. I needed minerals. I was in hospital a lot, and one time though the specialist said to me, they were like looking quite perplexed at me. They go, how are you doing this? How are you even being, like, I was not well, but they expected me to be dead, right? I was supposed to be dead, pretty much. Well, they were talking about palliative care. So it's like, and then this one day they were like, what are you doing? Like, they would give me like a saline drip, but they'd say, you should be on this all the time, but we've only got to do it ever how often they were doing it, right? I don't remember times and stuff. And I actually said to them, I said, I actually give myself enemas every day, or I'll go to the clinic when the girls can take me and have a session. Now they were just gobsmacked. They were gobsmacked. But what it showed me was the power of the body, because I got through that and sitting here today in a way that probably I shouldn't be, yeah?
If they're talking about palliative care, for sure.
Yeah, it was. And it's because I didn't deal with the symptoms that we're talking about, whether that be cancer or diabetes or autoimmune or constipation. I wanted to go upstream. Why did I have it? How do I need to heal my body? Okay, I know how I need to heal it. I need to make sure it's hydrated with good quality water, because then it can be its own magic and do what it needs to do. And I'm just going to leave that with it. So that was my thing with that. And then I believe that, because I very much believe in cellular memory, it's how I got into this, and how our body psychology, how it talks to us. So because this was all around my throat, it's about me speaking up. My lungs were about deep grief, because my lungs were I had like 5 litres of fluid on my right lung. Another time, another couple of litres. So like my lungs were very affected, my right lung in particular. My throat, and then of course blood cancer was lymphoma, so it was a blood cancer, which is about nutrition of life, like nourishment of life, yeah? So I had drained myself so much because I'm a giver, that's what I do, and did that all my life without remembering to give me the oxygen first. So I did a lot of work. I did a lot of Ho'oponopono. Like, and this is what I mean, we're multidimensional. Like, we can have the physical things, so we can go and do the colonic. We can have the water, we can drink the water, we can, you know, have our green juice if we want to have our green juice. We can do all that. But we also have to deal with our spirit body, our energy body, whatever words you want to do it. And I don't mean religious. So for anyone, just to be really clear, I'm not talking about a religious type thing or something that you might even, I'm not even talking about Buddhism or whatever. I'm just talking about that there's something in you other than just your bricks and mortar. Yeah, your skins and bone. There's an energy in you, a consciousness. And we know that, and we can see that when we watch, and if we're blessed to be with someone when they pass, and we can see when that leaves someone's body. You see that, it's there. We can also measure it in quantum physics now.
Yes.
Yeah. So to be able to talk with my body and my consciousness, to give it the healing and understand and give it a voice. Yeah. So I've worked a lot on that in my healing process with that as well. And still do, because it is a lifestyle thing, yeah? It's not like we get to 30 or 35 or ever how and go, yeah, I'm pretty cool, man, thanks, yeah. Done a fair bit of healing in my time, I'm done. I got my shit sorted, it don't stink. It's like, nah, babe, you haven't even started. It's like, it's like that level of plateau that we get to, and then we sit with that for a good time until we're ready, until it's not there anymore, and then we go to the next level. And that's called life.
Yeah.
And that's why I think when we're dealing with the colon, when we're dealing with the feeling brain, when we're dealing with our microbial diversity, our microbial family, we are merely a host. We really are a host. So let's be a host to good bugs instead of parasites, because they're real. And they do go all out our body, and maybe that's another YouTube we can talk about parasites.
Perhaps.
We won't freak everyone.
I'm very interested to stop you on the acknowledgement of your spirit and like.
Yes.
So you said deep grief here and not using your voice. So the water nourished you enough to move through the physical issue and survive basically while you went deep into that grief and the finding your voice.
Yeah, because you know your throat is your bridge between your brain and your heart. So what's ironic, I said this for years to my clients on the table when I would get, because I'd often in sessions get people to use their voice. I find it quite ironic. Spirit's great,
well,
right?
How much do we give people the advice that we need?
We need to hear, so we need to listen, right? So, so this is the bridge between our brain and our heart. So I, being a blood type A, overthink. I'm an overthinker, and probably a little bit ADD. And if we were to diagnose me now, you know, well, if we like labels, don't.
No, but I can see. I mean, I can see that kind of like, oh yeah, this and this and this and this. Like, let's talk about 50 things at once. It's there. Like that's just the label of the modern time for that behaviour.
I like to call it creative. Creative, and I do have a bit of a strategic brain. Yes, so let's not go there. But we've got all of that going on. So, oh, now I've just lost my train of thought. So I was stuck in my head. But I would always talk to people about we have to clear this channel because really it's from your heart we need to speak. So that whole learning for me, and more than learning, it was actually to imprana it. I sat in that because I was in deep pain. I was in deep physical pain. With the stent and with what was going on, and yeah, it was a moment. And I very much talked about it wasn't cancer, so it was called change. So I was going through a change. I was changing.
That's so
and
empowering.
my life. Yeah.
Like to take something like that and call it change. You know?
It's change. Yeah. So
Straight
if you
away.
wanted to look that up, I've got any of that journey. There's an Instagram page called "It's Not Cancer. It's Not Cancer. It's Change." Yeah.
Wow.
So, and I even talked about the chemotherapies, purging, because I've had plant medicine and going through all those healings with, as I said, my shaman in Ibiza. And if I'm not condoning that either, I've got very clear feelings about people that do that. If we have to keep doing that plant medicine, we're probably, because maybe some of your viewers, because it's very topical at the moment.
Yes. The audience has seen a lot of myself being very irresponsible with these things, because early days I just discovered that you can access all of this stuff, and I thought I was a genius, and I went on all those journeys and I made a massive mess. And now I understand that unless you're given the knowledge, or you're given it, like this is for you from a person who's had that knowledge for thousands of years, you have no business with it.
And it is a whole, I'd be happy to talk about it, because but we can do that in a whole other
Context.
segment maybe, because it is a subject to its own, because I think it does need to be unpacked a little. And but the cautionary thing is just to remember that if you're working in the or playing in the plant medicine arena, you are opening up portals that you don't understand.
Yes.
So you need to be very aware. And maybe I'd leave it at that. To go back, what I was talking about, the essence, and we are a multidimensional being, right? So for me to get well, I had to find reconnection with my body. I had to not be disassociated, which I think is a lot what's going on in that arena that we're talking about. You have to bring all the aspects of your soul back in to self. We leave parts of them around and behind when we are going through trauma, when it's all too hard, for whatever reason, when we've maybe sat in a plant circle, medicine circle, and they haven't protected us with the portals that have been opened. Like, there's such risk about that. I've seen that. I know that. Be careful with that. But anyway, we leave parts of that behind. So for me, where I was at, even though I thought that, when I had cancer, that, I've spent my life, I've been a seeker my whole life. Like, this is not like a new thing in the last 3 years. Like, this has been since I feel like I want to say since I was born, but definitely since I started university, when I was 21, when my daughter went to school. Very much, I was very into philosophy and just curious. I've always been curious. I always want to know what's around the next corner, right? Maybe a little bit of my ADD. And then, so without me going on, multidimensional, bringing your body, parts of self, your memories and stuff from everywhere, you're bringing that in to do your real healing. And that's what I had to do, to listen to my heart, to speak from my heart, up this way, not here. And the deep grief is the deep grief that not only have I experienced in the huge amount of losses I've had in my life, but a number of the clients that I've worked with in my life, like I have supported clients to pass with cancer, and just their stories of healing. Like, you're so blessed and gifted to sit, and I've been witness to so many people's journeys, like I feel very, very grateful for that. But we're so used to being medicated. We go to a doctor, they give us some Ritalin and we get better, or we sell it and get another drug and get better again. So it's like that with everything. It's like we think, well, I'm going to do this cleanse for a month and I'm going to be better after that. And then I'm going to do this emotional healing work and then I'm going to be better after that. Instead of actually going, you know what, it's not a tit for tat type thing. It's life. That's like something that I think that mainstream medicine has. We've got to change that whole paradigm. If we want to reclaim our health, we have to understand it's a journey of self-responsibility. Because life's a journey, and we'll meander, and we'll have down times and good times, party times, it's Christmas time, like we do that. That's called life. But Mother Nature has seasons, doesn't she? So this is our seasons. What is our season? So we're going to go in and out of our seasons.
The picture that just came to me when you said it's the seasons is like different individuals might have like Darwin weather, like where they go through a drought for 6 months and then they go through like massive regeneration and healing. And it doesn't have to be like that. You can actually choose to change your seasons. Like you could have like a gentle summer and a nice warm winter. Like
you could change your geography, couldn't you?
Yeah, because we are, as you said, like a planet of, like a cell of the planet, and we are a planet full of cells.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we have the power to change
100%.
And then you're saying on a higher level, if we all change ourselves, we heal the whole
planet.
Yeah.
And that's why Bottoms Up has a tagline, healing Mother Earth one belly at a time. You are your own medicine person. You can choose how you want to live that out. And yes, you being happy means that then your next person next to you is going to be happier. So you go, and then they're going to be happy, and then the people next door neighbours are going to be happy, and then the shopkeeper's going to be happy. Like if we can, I just know that unhealthy people are unhappy. So when you, and we say that on, you know, the girls that answer my phones, they've been doing it for a long time now. But I remember when we first started, I would say to them, because they would talk to me, you know, like, oh my God, I was so cranky at us. They were so short, this and that, you know, when they get phone calls. And it was like really teaching them, it's like, yeah, well, they're not well.
100%.
We're not well, like, and we can't be happy. We get snappy at people, right? So yeah, it's very much about you are your own medicine person, and it doesn't have to be hard.
That's why I liked it so much, and that's why, like, there's been a big gap between features, and I was just like, this is another thing where it's internal. Like, I'm healing myself, and there's so little of that, I feel, but that's just my reality at the moment because I haven't explored enough. Because I come from the old thing where it's all external to internal, give you the drugs, give you the thing to soothe it, go to the hospital, go to the doctor. So I'm new to this. I'm new to like, okay, I'm the one that's creating my own health and well-being, my whole world. So it's exciting when I find a new thing that's like, oh, I can just support you to empower yourself. It's not, you're not trying to take anything from me or turn me into a lifetime customer or any of those terrible things that I've experienced in the past, and so many others have as well.
And it's about knowing that all of your answers come from in here. All of them. All we might do is help you open the door so you can hear them. That's all, because we're cleaning out your rubbish. So you can have better clarity. One of the biggest calls we get from people after they've had a colonic, and if they are worried, it will be because they feel really angry, sad or tired, which are all what we call a healing crisis. It's your body trying to recalibrate and let go. So often we'll say to those people, you need to come back in and we do another session so we can move that through. You can see it change on the table. Like as soon as someone is starting to release, you can just see the colour in their body change. You can see once that energy has left their body. You know, again, our Aboriginal people, and this would be like Indigenous people across the world, they talk about like when you are not well, so whether that's a physical or a mental health issue, they would say it's because your spirit's out of alignment. Yeah, like, so it's like if you're not well, we've got to get your spirit back in alignment. Now, when we're not well, our spirit doesn't have a space to live because it's all tight. Our body's tight when we're not well. We're inflamed, we're hot. So when you've got inflammation, your body is heated. Yeah, so it's contracted, it's hot, it doesn't have a space. There's no space.
So what comes to mind is when you're living in that as a spirit. Of course you want to escape reality. Of course you don't want to be here. And then when you don't want to be here, that's an invitation for everything from the outside to
come in,
have a go.
You
know, so 100%. You don't want to be in an unhealthy vehicle. You want to make it a beautiful, lovely place to live. Yeah, you do. Yeah. I think I'm there now. Like I'm just getting used to the nice renovated space. Like it took a few years of like doing different things and healing, and a lot of it for me, like I did kind of the other way around. or maybe it's kind of always together. But I did a lot of the emotional stuff first,
Yeah.
like because I just knew I was storing so much stress and anger and even like the craziness and everything inside of me.
Yeah.
So that's what I addressed first. And then,
And I think whatever works for people, hey? It's like, I think it's like, it's, again, trusting that intuition. Trusting where your body's taking you, but knowing that, like, it's learning how to feel confident within yourself. That you, because we've been told from when we were born that not to trust our own feelings. And to go to someone to tell us how we feel, whether that's the doctor or the chiropractor, actually. You know what I mean? Like, we're being told that the answers come externally, whereas in fact the answers all come internally. The problem is we have to find space, and that's really what we do doing colonics, is that we're creating, like, we're allowing that water in there, but it creates that space. And remember, when I first started, I talked about how my head was full and I wanted space. And it's within the space that the magic happens.
so another thing came up while you were saying that, like this feeling that I wish it could be like an ideal, perfect world situation where I could heal it all at once. Because the thing that puts everybody off, I feel, or put me off, is like you start to heal one thing in one area, but then you end up eating a lot of McDonald's and junk food or something, and then that wrecks something over here, and then you're trying to fix this over here, and it's like this quick, gotta fix, until you finally kind of catch up with yourself. And then you're like, all right, I got it. I'm putting all the pieces where they're meant to go. You know, like that part's the hard part.
It is.
And I feel like colon hydrotherapy approach early in the journey would be really helpful, because it would, you know, deal with a lot of the fundamental level stuff. So that you could then have a clearer head, you could have a clearer gut, and you could focus like this step and then this step, instead of that crazy kind of emotional roller coaster that so many of us go on. But of course you could do it all together. Like if you're fortunate enough to be listening to this and that light bulb goes off and you're like, I'll heal my emotional stuff and my physical stuff. Like,
well, that's what I do. That's why I got into it. That was my thing, because I'd spent all those years doing the emotional stuff. And then it was just like, oh my goodness, like this is a whole new next level. So then I had to go and learn about the body, I guess, and bring all that in. But yeah, 100%. Like, it's like doing the Bottoms Up Colonics. It's like a biohack. You know, everyone talks about biohacking these days because they're trying to make it all quicker and make it all happen faster and control the body, which I don't think we can. But we can certainly biohack. We can certainly give it space a lot quicker and a lot easier. 100%. 100%. I've seen that thousands of times. Like, I've probably seen like more than 20,000 people over the years, you know, like there's a lot of people I've worked with. And to watch this therapy and watch people grow through it is just, as I said before, it's a gift. But I think we have to, that's the other thing about, you know, we're taught to take medicines to make us feel better. But I think we also have to understand that it's not like, it's not something that finishes. Like when you finish, you're dead. Like your health is your whole life's journey. Your mental, physical, spiritual, emotional health is your life journey. And it's going to take priority at different times that you need it. I think we have to get rid of this whole urgency and that things have to finish, we have to have things complete. And there's so much pressure with young people to, you know, perform and get rich quick and do all this type of stuff, you know, and be a millionaire overnight. Or it's all dangerous and it's all adrenal fatiguing. Like and it's not real. Like, I think we have to start to understand that for our health, that's all not real. Like, you can be successful and you can be driven, and I've certainly, that's me, like I have been and I am. So I'm not saying you can't be that, but I think thinking that it's going to stop at a point, or you're going to give yourself so much time to do your own healing journey, I think you're cutting yourself short, to be honest. Because I see it as a beautiful adventure to get to know yourself. I don't see it as a healing journey. It's like I'm unpacking myself, because for the first, 38 years, say, I mean, I did therapy for 10 years prior to that. Say for the first 30 years, I got packed. I got born and I got all these ideas and thoughts that everyone told me got put on me. You know, you can't sing, you can't dance, you can't read, you're dumb, you failed school, you're a single mother, you're hopeless, you're never going to earn an income, like all those stories, right?
Yes.
So they all packed on me. So I come out as this beautiful little spirit, fighting because I had to get pulled out, didn't want to be here, another story.
Okay.
But you then get packed. I see it as then you get packed all these layers on. And then you get to a point and you go, you know what, I don't think this is serving me so well. I'm sick of having these relationships that don't work, or this bloating that constantly goes on, or constipation, or irritable bowel, or ulcerative colitis, or anxiety. So then something starts to present itself in front of us.
Yep.
So now we start to go on this journey. It might be the body work, or it might be whatever, it might be new therapy, whatever. But I think we should not just say, okay, well, this is going to give me all the answers and I'm going to be finished this and I'm going to be healed and I'm going to be good and the world's going to be right and the universe is going to give me everything I want because I'm in a great space.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? I think that's an old way of thinking of transaction. So that's like transactional health. That's transactional human beingness. Yeah? When we want to come back and understand that we are a part of Mother Earth and we are a part of consciousness, what we want to do is we want to go, we want to understand that we're going to start to unpack. So it's like, oh yeah, they used to tell me I couldn't sing. Yeah, that used to upset me. I'm going to actually investigate that. You know, whether I look at that, go to a singing lesson, like what did that, other messages did that give or whatever. And whether I'm doing that, is that in my body somewhere? Is that in my throat? You know, like where is that storing in my body? Because we store memories not here. We store memories everywhere else in our body. So I see it, and still now, at my age, I'm still unpacking. I'm still unpacking. I had a bit of luggage. But unpacking, you know, but I see that as now, I see that as so beautiful because that means that I'm just increasing my consciousness the whole time. So I can now consciously live and have relationships and be with people and be with myself and be with the planet, like in a really, well, for me, the ultimate is, the mastery for me is to be able to be in a state of pure loveness, like, because I think that that's the energy that we need to pervade.
But as you said, you can have your ideal, but you're never arriving. You're
but I'm
always
never
on
going
your
to,
way.
well, when I arrive there, I'm dead.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah? Because my spirit then's going to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel fine about that. But that's been my journey for the last 20 years. It's like I want to constantly get better at being able to sit in the place of pure and unconditional love when I'm sitting next to people, but in my own life as well, personal life.
Which is the hardest place to do it usually. Your
100%.
closest family, closest friends, they're the ones that are going to trigger you the most because they're there to learn alongside you.
Yeah, and if they don't, and if it becomes too toxic, you say goodbye to them. And that then in itself is a learning in itself, right?
Yes.
Because it's not all people that have to carry on just because they're family throughout our life. And I think there's some important decisions that as you get older, I think are easier to make. But yeah, so, you know, like healing and health. You know, I think it's Deepak Chopra. He talks about healing is holy. You know, and it's like, so I say health and healing is holy. Like healing is about being healthy, and healing is about understanding we are multidimensional. We're physical, we're spiritual, we're emotional.
Do we need a different verb even? If it's because healing implies that we're going to get better at some point and we'll be finished.
Well, is it? Does it?
I feel it does.
It does, because I think that's only because the context we've put it on.
We've changed the meaning of it.
Healing is healing. Like I'm healing forever. I'm not ever healed. Healed is a different thing. And in our mainstream, we talk about cure. I want a cure for cancer.
And that's the program. That's why we think healing leads to healed instead of just like growth on all levels 100%. Until infinity. Like just keep going.
Yeah. So healing is holy, is health. It's not something, it's something that I'm always aspiring to get better and better and better at. It's something that when I attain, I'm ready to pass over and leave this physical body behind. My spirit can go back home.
I think what I really love about you is that you are both the example, like you're living it, and you are supporting others to do that for themselves. Like it's almost 50-50. Like the stories that you've just shared right now in this time have been an amazing exemplary, like how to guide. Like this, I'm not just going to tell you to do this and this. Like this is what I did. You could do it too. Have a go if you want. It's like it's lovely.
Yeah, because everyone is their own agent. And everyone is ready, and the word we use now is sovereign, isn't it? Like everyone is their own sovereign. It's an interesting word where that's come from, but you are your own agent. And what has worked for me, it's like, and like I do water fast. I'm doing a water fast for 7 days, and I go online and I support people in their homes to do it. You don't have to, people don't always do 7 days. They can do 3 days, 5 days, 24 hours. It's about discipline and mindset as opposed to just fasting. But the idea of fasting is that we're giving our digestive system a rest. We're making space. And when you get busy like me, I need to have these moments of stop. It's a full stop for me. So now I can find that space. But in doing that, everyone's going to respond. Like one of the things I have great respect for is that and this is probably my original training in solution focused and breath therapy, is actually Milton Erickson's work, but everyone has their own story, their own context. And who am I to come and say that that's not true for you? So my first step is I want to understand, what is your context? What is your story? What's your journey, what you want to go on? Because I'm freaking excited about that for you. I want to support you on that. I want you to be able to embrace you and love every single cell in your body. And if I can see you doing that, it's like, phew, that just makes my heart sing. And I guess now it's not so much the clients, but it's for all my therapists that work for us in Bottoms Up, or the clinic owners and stuff. It is all about community. Because we can't be well without a community. We weren't meant to be not without community. So I guess this is my way of making a community for people to be healthy within.
Yeah, beautiful. It's so needed because, like you said, if unhealthy people are unhappy and we're all bumping into each other and causing action and reaction, like if you can just start like even a small group and start to grow that's like probably one of the most important jobs
most
that
powerful
we have.
Jobs, 100%. And when we are like that, when we are not feeling great, then we pick up all the negative stuff that's going on in the world and we start to attach to that and we become very negative, and that breeds disease in itself. That breeds disease because that's making inflammation in your body. So before you know it, you're starting to get headaches, you get migraines, you're stiff, you can't bend over, you can't run, you can't walk. Like that, you become inflexible. So your body is showing your inflexible thought because it also starts to shut down. If people wanted to find out more, the best starting point is always just our website, bottomsupcolonics.com.au. If you go on there, you'll see a location page, and that's if you'll find like a clinic near you. So they will be working the way that I've been talking about today. You can go, there's a lot of other colonic places, and they won't necessarily understand what I've spoken about today, and they will give you what I call a traditional colonic, which potentially isn't going to support you emotionally in the way that you might be hoping for. If you wanted to speak to me about, well, anything on here today, I think the best way to do that is drop an email at sue@bottomsupcolonics.com.au and just say that, from Kai. If they do that as a reference, then I'll know who they are and can respond back. There's a couple of groups that we've got, like there's my fasting page group, and maybe we can put those links on. And there's also a parasite and inflammation group, and it's quite active with a lot of people on there that are healing a range of issues through our parasite protocol.
So there's that community.
And
Even
that's
though
a
it's just a
community.
small first step, like you
Yeah.
can have access to
at
people
least
that are
you've-
healing alongside you.
Yeah, and you can read their stories and see what's going on and stuff, and see that you're actually not so different. 80% of the population have some type of digestive disorder. It's the main reason people go to a doctor. Yeah, so it's,
Whether they realise it or not.
whether
Like, they might go in there
realise it.
thinking that they've
They'll
got
be
another
thinking,
issue.
yeah. They'll be going in there for headaches, but really they're constipated.
Yeah.
Or they'll be going in there because they haven't had their period for 6 months, but it's they're constipated. For training for Bottoms Up, drop me an email again. I would have a phone conversation, leave a phone number so that I can have a phone conversation with you. We do have clinics around a fair bit now. We've opened up one not long ago in Melbourne. We are looking for people down there actually.
People who align with these similar values
All
and
of
thoughts
this.
and like what we're talking about here, perfect for
Yeah.
this community. If you're looking for a way to have purpose in this world and you're looking around at all the traditional jobs and you're thinking, I got to do something different, stuff like this is where I'd be looking first, right?
Yeah, but people have to get their head around it. So make sure you go have colonics and see what we do. And the biggest entry criteria I ask is that people feel passionate about it. I just want passion, whether it's about mental health or gut health and understanding the combination. But it's about a passion for life. It's about, I want people to have a passion, and that's what I want us to reignite in people. I really encourage you, if something that you can do, 2 things that you can do to start to improve for yourself is drink some water each day. I really encourage you, and do that old weird thing of, get your glass bottle, don't put it in plastic please, glass, because water does have a consciousness. Put a heart on it, put I love me on it, put I love the world, put gratitude, put thank you, on that glass bottle. If you put it in the sun for a little bit, you're going to structure it. So now you're going to absorb it a lot better. You're going to activate it, charge it. So you can leave, get 2 litre bottles, and you've got them swapping out each day. So you've got one sitting in the sun for a day. So now you've got structured waters. Might give you some detox symptoms, so be aware of that when you first start. Another thing with water is that you can get some water and some lemon juice and salt. Do that first thing in the morning. That's going to supercharge you for your day. And it's again going to structure that water for you. You will see a lot of people out there trying to sell you hydrogenated water and alkaline water, and we can maybe do another thing around that. But don't spend all your money on that. It's too expensive. Just
Use what's there.
Use what you've got, but upgrade it. So if you have to have water out of a tub, at least put it in that glass bottle. Keep the lid off so all the gas can go. Put it in the sun. And then at least let it structure. Let it do that, yeah? At least you're drinking water and not Coke or a soft drink or something. So do that. The other thing that you can do that's going to change up, so that's like a change agent straight up. That you're going to change your health straight away with that, right? And particularly if you're doing the amount of party drugs and stuff you're doing, that the biggest effect that they have, along with everything else that we don't talk about, is that they dehydrate you. So you need to be drinking 2 to 4 litres a day because you're doing the party drug that's pulling all of that water from your body. And when it does that, it's got to take extra water from your colon, and now we've got an auto intoxication thing happening. So another story, but make sure you drink water. And then the other thing that you can do is just to eat consciously. Like when you're having a meal, sit down with the food in front of you and give thanks to it. And say thank you, whether it's a takeaway or a McDonald's.
Or the rude version of that is actually chew your food.
And then the
so
next
many
thing
of us are just like,
I know, we inhale it, right?
Yeah.
So the next thing that I say to people, and then if you are having McDonald's or something, I want you to sit with it on a plate, take it out of all of its paper and everything, like put the burger or whatever you got on a plate, but each mouthful you got to chew 20 times. Tell me how good it tastes after the 20th time. I don't reckon it'll be tasting so good. But if you get another nice meal that you've cooked, or whether it's a steak or whether it's lentil or whether it's sweet potato or broccoli, and you chew that for 20 times, the flavour's not going to get worse.
And on that too, you did say that if we've created an environment full of like bad bugs and stuff, it's actually the bugs that are craving the sugars and
100%.
the junk and all the stuff. So when we clear that, all of a sudden you don't even feel like a Big Mac.
Yeah.